This video is brought to you by the Disc Golf Depot, largest selection and best prices in the Pacific Northwest. Check out their Facebook page for more information or come into the shop today. What's up everybody? Welcome to my new disc dyeing tutorial video. In this video we're going to show you how to dye your discs. It's very inexpensive, it's very easy, it's quite simple, and I think you guys will dig it. You'll have some interesting results. I'm going to dye 2 discs in this video. One of them will be given away at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Huge thank you to the Disc Golf Depot for sponsoring this video. The Disc Golf Depot is one of my longest, oldest sponsors. It is by far the best shop in Portland to get your plastic. They have everything you could need, bags, baskets, all the discs, huge selection. Tell them I sent you. They hooked me up with 2 of these beautiful bottom stamped pure white Star discs. I got a Rock 3 and I got a Star Destroyer, both max weight. I'm going to dye these up. So thank you to the Disc Golf Depot for their continued support here on the channel. Thanks to all you guys for watching. Let's get into it. We got a lot to cover. So in this video I'm going to show you everything you need and hopefully give you all the information you need to make this happen for yourself. I have 2 different types of discs here with 2 different mediums that we're going to use. So let's take a look at them. 2 of them are done with shampoo and 2 of them are done with conditioner. Really cheap conditioner. We'll show you all that stuff in just a minute, but here's just a quick look at what you can expect in terms of results from this process. These are all using 2 different colors, pink and blue, that's it. So this one, obviously you can see where the stamp is, and then all of the texture going on in the background there on this Big Z Nuke is all the dye. This is a Goldline Culverin. Also similar technique using the shampoo, and you can see it has kind of a soft marble type effect, and I think that one came out quite nicely as well. The next 2 are done in conditioner, which produces a different effect and different kind of texture to the look. It has a little bit more of a kind of a sharper look to it. As you can see there, it's not as soft. It's kind of more defined in the lines and stuff that it creates. Here is another conditioner disc right here. Once again, only using 2 different colors, but since they're pink and blue, they will blend together to make purple, and then they will stay separate at other spots depending on how much you add, how much you mix it, etc. So there's just a quick look at what they will look like using this technique. Let's get into the materials. So first of all, I like to keep all the stuff that I use for dyeing in this really cheap plastic, it's called a bus tub. Anybody who's worked in a kitchen or a restaurant has seen these before, but you can get these at any cash and carry or a restaurant supply shop for about $5. They're pretty bomb proof, they're plastic, they last forever, and I like to keep all of my stuff in here in case anything spills or anything stupid happens. It doesn't get all over your counter. You got to be careful. All of this synthetic dye will dye your counter, it'll dye your floor, it'll ruin fabrics, etc. So be careful with everything that you're going to handle and make sure you're not getting dye on everything. Pretty obvious, but you know, it happens, and there's definitely some pitfalls there. And I try to mitigate that by keeping everything in this bus tub. It also helps me keep everything organized. So this wok here is actually my basin that I'll put the dye into, and I'll float the discs in here. I've also used this for stencil dyes. You know, if you're going to do an old school stencil dye, like a hot bath dye, you can put it in a frying pan like this. Obviously, you don't want to use it for food afterwards. This one is already retired from food service because it's like kind of scratched up. So this works out quite nicely because any size disc will fit in here. If you want to use something like a plate or something, that can work fine, but depending on the disc, it might not fit very well. Because mid-ranges are larger diameter, that kind of thing. So this allows for basically any disc will fit in here, from a Condor all the way down to a Suspect or something, small diameter. No problem whatsoever. It'll fit in this thing and it'll be just fine. So the dye will go down into here, or the medium will go down in here, whether it's shampoo or conditioner. The dye will go on top of that. You'll see all that later as we actually get into the dyeing. Here is the other stuff. So I stumbled upon this technique. I was trying to figure out how to do lotion dyes. You can do pretty interesting dyes with kind of a basic white cocoa butter lotion like this. But when I went to the store, they didn't have it. I have no patience, so I ended up with conditioner instead. And I really liked how it came out, and I've kind of pioneered my own technique based around that. But I do have some cocoa butter that I'm going to learn how to use more effectively in the future, and I will post another video for you guys to check out about that. For me, I'm using this Suave, super cheap tropical coconut shampoo. Now, if you don't like the smell of coconut, you're probably not going to want to use this because it makes the disc smell like coconut and it doesn't go away. At least it hasn't so far. I have a couple of discs that I've dyed. They're in my bag, they're in my buddy's bags. They still smell like coconut, so if you don't like that, something to think about. You could potentially use other scents or anything like that, but I don't think it's that big of a deal to smell like coconut. And since this has a particular color to it that you'll see later, it's kind of a metallic looking white color to it. I'm not really sure how a different shampoo with a different type of texture to the actual liquid itself would affect your dye. So it could be something that works out awesome and you find some cool technique, and that's kind of the fun of this, is experimenting and trying it out. But I wanted you guys to see exactly what I'm using so you can most closely replicate the results, and then you can go from there. Try it out and see what you want to do. So there's the shampoo. Conditioner looks oh, there's the shampoo again. Conditioner looks exactly the same bottle. Tropical coconut, same flavor, or flavor, ugh. Same scent, and yeah, these are quite cheap, couple bucks a bottle. You'll get a few dyes out of those, depending on how much you use and stuff, but yeah, one bottle, maybe 2 or 3 discs or so. I haven't really measured that out. I just try to make sure I have enough at hand, and I just grab it at the grocery store so I can re-up every week as I need. Okay, obviously the meat and potatoes of this is the conditioner and the dye itself. There's going to be all kinds of different ways you can get the dye onto the conditioner, onto the shampoo, but I'll show you how I do it. But let's take a look at the dye I'm using. I only have 3 colors currently. It is RIT Dye-More Synthetic. Now, really old school viewers might remember my old electrical tape videos where I was using the original RIT dye. They changed the formula after that and it stopped working, but this new synthetic RIT, how it says synthetic there, works really nice with the plastic, and it's been going quite well. I really like how it's already mixed into liquid, so you can just drip it on there and you're off to the races. You can also just brush this straight on the disc if you want to. If you have a stencil, or if you want to put some pinstripes with electrical tape, you can brush it on. If you just want to color a disc a different color, you have a white disc, you want it to be pink, you can just brush it pink, let it sit overnight, rinse it off, and it'll be pink. You'll be fine. So you can do that sort of thing, but this is the dye I'm using. I have these colors in particular because blue and yellow will kind of make green, and then have some blue and yellow in between, and the pink and yellow works out okay, and the blue and pink is what I use most often, and that makes like a purple color with some different colors swirled in there like you saw on the fuse. So that's what I'm working with. You can use iDye Poly, still works fine for this technique. You can mix it with water and then drip it on. That's totally fine, but I really like how this stuff is already liquid. You can get this at Walmart, I'm quite certain, and I ordered these on Amazon, about $5 a bottle. So nothing too crazy there, pretty easy to use. Now here's some more gear that I have in here. Let's take a look at all this. This looks kind of ominous. If somebody stumbled upon this, they might think God knows what I'm up to here, but they are really cheap plastic syringes. This one I got at the dollar store. It's called a flavor injector is what it's called. And basically it's designed to like inject marinade into like a roast or something like that, but it works really well for this application. I threw out the little needle part, or I discarded it, I'm not sure where it went because I don't need it. And then I got these little ones as well that work exactly the same. I think my wife got me those on Amazon or some such. Those work out really nice, so you can just suck up as much dye as you need and be really controlled with the way you drip it on. Once again, I'll show you that once we get into dyeing. I have a few of these little metal cups. These can also be found most places, but definitely at restaurant supply shops. These little inexpensive metal cups last you forever. They're perfect. I pour the dye out into them. I suck it up in the syringe. We drop and go. Then I have a couple of other things in here. Take out chopsticks, some bamboo skewers. Those I use to swirl the dye around in various ways, or to swirl the conditioner into different patterns and stuff before I drip the dye, which again we'll get into shortly. And then I also have a paintbrush for certain applications. Like I said, there's one disc that I have. I just wanted half of it to be yellow. I just painted it. I put a piece of blue tape to make an edge here, and then I just painted this whole side, peeled it off, rinsed it off the next day. It was good to go. So that is pretty much all the stuff you need to have. Things you need to know. Premium plastics are going to work the best. That's why I'm using these nice white star discs. White, opaque premium plastic, star, fusion, gold line. If you can find a light color ESP from the new ESP blends from Discraft, that stuff dyes real nice. This is your best bet, and you're going to get the best results this way. As you can see here, This is a premium plastic. It takes a really nice dye to it, that opaque plastic. The Big Z plastic works out great because it's also opaque, and the metallic nature lends some pretty cool effects to it, I think. But if you look at this, which is an Opto, it's still cool. I still dig it. The dye will be translucent as well, which is interesting, but it doesn't really quite have as much clarity to it as being on an opaque background. So you want to have premium plastic. You don't want to try to dye anything that's not premium. So stick with, you know, Champion, Star, Z, ESP, Opto, Goldline, Lucid, Fusion. You want to use those plastics, right? You might be able to get away with getting some color onto maybe like a soft pure or something like that. I don't know how that dye works, how that plastic works out with dye, but I know anything baseline, DX, Pro D plastic is no good. You're not going to get good results, and you're better off just using these nice premium discs. If you're going to go to the effort of dyeing them and making them look cool for your bag or whatever, might not have good plastic that's going to last a long time. So these are pretty much ideal for this. I do like how the stamp kind of interacts with the dye, so I'm not afraid to just dye right over a stamp, as you guys have seen. I think that's cool, but having these blank discs, awesome. Or if you get a can of acetone from like a Home Depot or something like that, it's very easy. You just put on a paper towel and you can wipe the stamp off of a disc. If you want to get a disc to dye and you're trying to wipe the stamp off of it, plain silver is the easiest to get off. Anything with color to it. If this had a blue stamp on it, sometimes you start to wipe it off, the blue liquefies in the acetone and it sinks right back into the plastic and it'll dye it a color before you even get it off of there. Just something to know. If you guys have any more questions about wiping stamps, I can post a separate video about that. But since we have these beautiful blank ones, once again from our friends at the Disc Golf Depot, we are good to go. I'm going to cut away again here in 1 second, and we'll start dyeing. A couple other things you need to know. Wash the discs before you dye them. It definitely helps. Sometimes discs from the factory, or if it's a disc that you took out of your bag, it will have some oil, some dirt on there. All those sort of things can interact with the way the dye attempts to enter the surface of the plastic, so you want to be wary of that. Also, you never quite know how it's going to come out until you pull it out of the dye. So if you don't have a lot of patience like me, you're just going to have to tough it out, wait 24 hours, and take it out of the dye and find out how it looks. If you try to pull it out early and peek at it, you might just mess the whole thing up. So you really kind of want to just leave them, have faith that they're going to look cool. If you hate them, trade them into your local shop, give it away to somebody else, and try again. But I've only had a couple that I really didn't like the way they came out. For the most part, they end up looking pretty cool, and you're going to learn something about the way it works every time you do it. So yeah, make sure you have a nice premium disc, wash them up, all that kind of good stuff. You're going to soak them for 24 hours. Let's get into the actual technique. So there's already a little bit of shampoo in here. I did off camera, but there's really no way to do this. The shampoo will settle into a puddle, essentially, so you don't really have to worry about how this gets in here. I'm just going to get it in here enough that I want, and then I'll just kind of let it settle into a flat surface, but you can kind of like get some curls going on in there that will add some texture. You can see there, so I'll kind of leave that similar to that. And that's probably about good right there. Other people use other things, obviously. You can use a plate, works out well for most discs, but if it's depending on the size, it might not work, like we talked about earlier. You can also use like a cheap ultimate frisbee, like a dollar store frisbee or something like that. Probably work out quite well. My buddy Anthony does it that way. But I have this wok here. It's nice and deep, and it should work out just fine. So that's already pretty level. So what I'm going to do, might not show you guys this, but all you got to do is pull up some of the dye into this little plastic syringe right there, and then I'm just going to drip it around, and I'll be a little bit more liberal doing the shampoo than I am with the conditioner, because you'll see, based on the kind of density of the two liquids, the dye will sink into the shampoo a little bit, and it kind of just hangs out on the surface of the conditioner. And that's what gives you the most variation. So that's all I really need for the blue dye. Another drip in there, a little bit more. That should be good. I can squirt the rest back in my little metal cup here off camera, and that's ready to go. And then I have some yellow here as well. Here, maybe I could show you this. Be careful. Not too big of a deal, but obviously you don't want to drip anything anywhere. Okay, the yellow is a little bit scary because it looks brown, but it does end up being yellow on the disc. But we're going to see. Again, you never really know. This might be awesome. It might look horrible. We're going to find out tomorrow. So now I'm going to put some yellow out around the outside edge there to mix with the blue. Hopefully change into more of a green around the outside edge. Then have some plain yellow in the middle. That's about good. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do a really simple swirl using one of these chopsticks. Let me zoom you in a little bit so you can see what it looks like. You can see some of the dyes already starting to sink down under the surface there. That's fine. And I think that's what gives it the kind of softer effect. Right? So I'm going to do kind of a, I'm going to pull it in this time a little bit. That. Pull them out a little bit as well. Really, however you feel. There's kind of no real way to mess it up per se. There's ways to get different effects and different things, but kind of just have some fun with it. That should probably be good. You don't want to go too far. Sometimes it'll just end up being real ugly, or you'll mix the colors too much, that sort of thing. I'm going to pull through the center a little bit. I do want some of that green to come out. Maybe I'll do a little around the outside. Again, however you're feeling. Now, that's done. We have absolutely no idea what this is actually going to look like once the disc comes out tomorrow. But we're going to throw it in and we're going to find out. Star Destroyer, washed and clean, ready to go. I'm going to wipe it off one more time with this rag. Make sure there's no stuff sitting on the surface, dust or anything. Not hugely important, but definitely helps. And she's going in. So I'm just going to put it straight down in there. Like that. And I will also push it down very carefully and evenly. Basically just until it's about to bubble up over the edge. You're going to see that happen. And we are done. That's it. I'm going to do my best to not touch this again until I turn on this camera tomorrow and show you guys what it looks like. So that is the shampoo method, and it will have its own results. And now I'm going to reset and I'll show you how I do conditioner. Okay, so I'm actually a little bit low on the conditioner. I'm not sure how I missed that. I'm also going to take a chance in using this big frying pan because I only have one of those woks, so don't really have anything else to use for this. The conditioner is a little bit different because it's not going to settle in as much. You can kind of manipulate it once it gets in there, but you want to be a little bit more thoughtful with how you put it in. So I'm just going to do like roughly the size of a disc, like that. Try to fill it in. This should be enough. It'll definitely be enough to make something happen. Whether or not it's ideal for the technique, we're going to find out. I'm going to try something different and go with like a little crosshatch pattern like this. See what that does. Again, it's all kind of whatever you feel here. Hopefully you guys are seeing that pretty good. I want to make sure there's not too much of the bottom coming through the pan because that will just make like a little puddle, which is not ideal. Oh yeah, plenty of conditioner for that. So you saw how much was in the bottle there. I still have a little bit left to give you an idea of how much I'm using per disc, I guess. Okay, so we got pretty good coverage here, enough to do this rock. We're going to go pink and blue for the rock. What I'm going to do is, once I get all that in there like that, see how that's laying. Let's get a little zoom in. See how it doesn't really sink in. It's much thicker than the shampoo. The shampoo would have already settled by now, which is what's allowing us to get different designs. Now for this one, I'm going to manipulate the conditioner some in order to kind of make channels for the dye. So I'm just going to drag it straight like that. That's about it. I don't want to go too crazy with it. Kind of roll around the outside there for a quick outline of where the disc's going to go. Now I'm going to do pink and blue this time. And I want to go lighter with the dye here. Because little puddles and stuff will happen. This little syringe is actually a little bit touchier than the other ones that I've used. That should be good. Again, you don't want to go too crazy with the dye on the conditioner method. I guess depending on what you want though. If you want like a ton of coverage and a lot of color on there, you can get it. But just remember, it's not going to have as much texture and patterning to it if it just ends up dyeing big blocks of the disc really thick with color. So I'm just going to go a little heavier with the pink because it's lighter. Try to leave some areas just blue, and have some areas be a mix of the two, and hopefully there'll be some areas that are just pink as well. This is actually the first time I've ever dyed like really nice white star discs like this. I've kind of just been learning how to do this with whatever I have laying around, so it's nice to have like actual dedicated discs to do this with. There we go. You can see the puddles in there. As we push it down, those are all going to move and change. What I'm going to do is I'm going to very lightly drag that line again. Totally optional. You don't have to do any of this. You can just drip it on. You know, you can really just randomly put it on there, drip dye on there, stick a disc in it, and something's going to happen. It's going to color it and something's going to happen, so we'll find out. And now Mr. Rock 3 is going in the goo. Once again, making sure the surface has no dust or anything on it. And I'm just going to plop it right on top here. Maybe a slight angle to it, can't hurt. And then I'm going to push it down. Also optional, you could just kind of lay it down and let it kind of sink in. You can put weight on top of it if you really want it to sink down, but bear in mind it's going to hit the bottom. And I don't really know what the outcome of that might be. And that is about that on the rock. I don't want to push this one quite as far because of how flat this surface is. It's just pushing everything over a little bit. Again, it's a little bit of an experiment using this. Now, I'm very antsy. I don't have a lot of patience, so as these sit over here on my counter for the next 24 hours, which is how long I'll let them soak, I'll probably mess with it a little bit. You know, I'll push it down, make sure there's nothing too crazy going on. I'll keep an eye on it. Sometimes you'll see like a lot of the dye will start puddling on one side. Maybe I'll try to like get a paper towel in there, soak some of it up. This looks pretty controlled and fine though. I think that'll look pretty cool. There's plenty of color underneath there that got squished in various ways when I pushed it down. And we will find out tomorrow. So, after I am done and I have the discs all rested in here, all I'm going to do now is just carefully pour the remaining dye back out of these little cups into the jar. And then, since all of this stuff is, all these syringes and stuff are plastic, all I got to do is I just take them apart, rinse them out good, cold water, and everything's fine. Cleanup is done. I'll make sure there's no dye on my counter. If it starts to get on there, the faster you wipe it off, the better off you're going to be. Alright, next shot will be the finished results, and then I'll be giving away one of these to you guys as well, so stay tuned. Okay, it's about time to reveal these. They've been sitting for 24 hours. The one in the shampoo, I kind of like to push down now and again and get it nice and flush to the edge of the rim here. If it kind of comes up over the edge, it's really not going to cause much of a problem. In fact, you could do that on purpose if you want. You can push it down and let the dye come up over the edge so that the color will wrap around the outside of the disc. I don't see that as any issue whatsoever. It's not like a stencil dye where that would be a problem. This one, not really sure how it's going to look. Based on using this different pan, the conditioner spread out quite a bit, and yeah, there's really no other way to find out than to pull them out of here and see. So I'm not going to take you over to my sink to actually rinse these off because I really don't like filming that. It's kind of gross. But let's pull them out and take a look. Whoa. Okay. Yeah, things definitely happened here, as you can see. That's what it looks like before I rinse it off. We'll see what it looks like afterwards. It looks like a lot of the dye kind of just puddled up on it there. So that's going to be interesting to actually rinse it off and see. Okay. Here is the results of the conditioner disc. Very different from what I've gotten in so far, but it's pretty rad. I think you guys will agree that's a cool looking disc. You can see it's got some pink and blue in the middle, more purple on the outside. I think the camera is making it look more blue than it actually is, but there's some cool texture in there for sure. I like that kind of yeah, almost like a kind of cosmic nebula type of look to it on that white disc. Rock 3, so there's that one. Done deal. Alright, let's pull this one out. Kind of like suctions into the goo. Oh. Okay, so there it is. Before I rinse it off, and as you'll see here, I can kind of tap some of this down into this pan, and that, once it settles, you can drop another disc in there and it'll be fine. It's out of the goo. We're all done. Here is the final results for the shampoo method. You can see, got some pretty cool texture in there. It's a much softer look, or that's usually what it looks like to my eyes. It's more soft, kind of more blended, as you can see there, kind of like marbled effect. I'm grown to really like the shampoo. I think in the future I'm probably going to do mostly the shampoo dyes, because I really like the way it works out. It's just a really interesting effect. Looks particularly nice on a disc that has like a stamp as well, to just kind of color in the background and make it look like a swirly disc. So that one, pretty rad. I think you'll agree. Alright guys, we are done. It's time to give one of these away. I think I'm going to give away the Destroyer. This beautiful shampoo dyed Destroyer. Pretty sweet, max weight, bottom stamp Destroyer, courtesy of our friends at the Disc Golf Depot. If you guys are in the Portland area and you want to try dyeing discs, obviously you can go see the depot. They have a ton of different stuff you could work with, and they have a full box of more of these blank white ones. You can get some of those for yourself and use them to duplicate this process. So, how I'm going to give away this Destroyer over here, I'm going to hold on to this one for myself. All you got to do is go down in the description. You will find a Google form down there. Fill that out, and you will be entered to win. And USA only for this particular one. And make sure you keep an eye out, because once I send an email to you or I announce the winner in a separate video, you'll only have 2 weeks to get back to me, or otherwise I'm going to pick somebody else. So I don't want to, hold on to this thing for too long. But let's take one more look at everything before we wrap it up. Pretty sweet disc. I think you'll agree that one came out quite nice. I like that there's just a little bit of green in the middle, just yellow. Another thing you can do, if you wanted more color, you could take this same disc, mix up the shampoo, drop it straight back in again, do it again. I mean, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. That could be kind of cool, and if I wasn't giving away, maybe I'd try that. This one, I'd say, got plenty of color coverage on it. You can see where the dye finished around the outer rim there, but pretty cool looking, kind of nebula looking disc. Not bad. So hopefully you guys can learn something from that. If you have any questions that somehow I did not cover in this extremely long video, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks again to the Disc Golf Depot for sponsoring this video. I'll talk to you all very soon. Cheers. Thank you so much for watching, and big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. If you would like to see your name listed in the credits of all of my videos, go to patreon.com/discgolfnerd.